can we talk about how all this information about Beyonce and Jay-Z is suddenly coming out, like, nonstop? And honestly, I didn't ask for any of it. Every day there's a new twist. One moment, people are saying Beyonce might be living with her bodyguard, and the next, we're hearing about old secrets involving Jay-Z and his former mentor, Jazzo. Now people are speculating whether a divorce is really happening behind the scenes. And guess what? Some sources are pointing fingers at Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles, saying she's the one who pushed Beyonce into marrying Jay-Z in the first place. Yep, it's getting messy, real messy. So let's start from the beginning. There's this rumor going around from a so-called blind item that's been making waves online. It claims Beyonce didn't actually want to marry Jay-Z, but was convinced or maybe pressured by her mother to go through with it. Now, if you're wondering what a blind item is, it's basically a kind of anonymous gossip post where names aren't mentioned, but everyone pretty much figures out who it's about. And while what it says might not be totally new, it brings back things people have whispered about for years. The blind describes a famous pop star, obviously Beyonce, who's considered a global icon and one of the most successful women in music. Her marriage to a major rap mogul, clearly Jay-Z, has long been seen as this perfect power couple image. They've been seen as the face of Black love and empire building. But apparently, behind the scenes, it was far from a fairy tale. According to the gossip, Beyonce never actually wanted to be with Jay-Z in the first place. When they first met, she was only around 19, still trying to find her identity and figuring out what she wanted in life and love. Meanwhile, Jay-Z was already, in his early 30s, more than a decade older than her. That alone raised concerns, but there was more. She reportedly already knew about his past, his reputation with women, rumors of cheating, and the fact that there was an obvious power imbalance between them. So she turned to her mom, Tina, for advice, maybe hoping to hear support for her doubts. But according to the blind item, Tina shut it all down. Instead of encouraging her daughter to follow her instincts, Tina supposedly pushed her in the opposite direction. Since Tina was also managing Beyonce's career at the time, she allegedly saw the relationship as a strategic move. From her point of view, being with someone like Jay-Z, who had already made a name for himself in the industry, could elevate Beyonce's status and make her basically untouchable. Even when Beyonce said she wasn't even sure she liked him that way, her mom didn't back off. The blind claims Tina told her this was about more than just feelings. It was about building a brand and securing long-term success. So despite her hesitation and discomfort, Beyonce eventually went along with it. What she didn't realize, according to these rumors, was how much darkness from Jay-Z's past would follow them into the future. Now, whether or not this is all true, people are wondering why this kind of story is popping up right now. Some think it's intentional. Like Beyonce's team might be leaking this kind of narrative to soften the blow of a divorce announcement. If people start to believe that she was forced into this marriage, it might shift public opinion in her favor. People would see her as someone who tried to make it work but was never fully on board in the first place. There have been quiet rumors of trouble in their relationship for years. Nothing confirmed, but plenty of speculation. Some sources have even said that Beyonce and Jay-Z might have been living in different homes for a while now, suggesting they've been separated for longer than we think. And there's talk that their relationship began to break down even before 2014. That's before the infamous elevator incident with Solange, and before Jay-Z publicly admitted to cheating in his music. After that, Beyonce reportedly set some strict boundaries. Insiders say she gave him specific rules to follow. No more nights out with the guys, no solo meetings with female artists, and things like that. Apparently, Jay-Z was thankful that she didn't leave him, so he agreed to her terms. But even with those boundaries in place, it seems like the relationship never fully healed. And now, according to whispers online, Beyonce may have finally reached her limit. She's just done. She wants peace in her life, and she's not pretending anymore. That brings us to the other big rumor: Beyonce's alleged relationship with her longtime bodyguard, Julius. Now, if you're a Beyonce fan, you already know who Julius is. He's been by her side at public events, red carpets, concerts, and even just casual outings since around 2008. He's always there, watching, protecting, making sure things don't get out of hand. Fans have even noticed that he doesn't just act like a regular bodyguard. He often seems emotionally invested in her well-being. Julius is kind of a mystery himself. He reportedly speaks 5 languages, is divorced, and has a daughter. Over the years, people have speculated about his relationship with Beyonce, especially because of how close they seem. There have even been a few paparazzi photos that got people talking, like the one where he was seen walking behind Beyonce with what looked like lipstick on his lips. That image alone sparked endless fan theories. One old blind item even claimed Beyonce was finally getting back at her husband by having something romantic going on with her bodyguard. It said her husband was scared of the guy, which only added to the buzz. Now, none of that was confirmed, of course, but when people want to believe something, it doesn't take much to convince them. Some insiders even claimed Jay-Z wanted to fire Julius years ago because he suspected something was going on, but Beyonce reportedly refused. She said Julius was staying, period. And recently, people noticed that Julius seemed extra happy when Beyoncé won an award for her Cowboy Carter album at the Grammys. There's footage showing him standing behind their table and smiling as she got up to accept the award. It was a small moment, but for fans who've been watching them for years, it felt significant. Like maybe the bond between them is deeper than just employer and employee. According to a few sources, Beyoncé and Julius have been spending even more time together lately. Like, not just on tour or during events, but in their day-to-day lives. And it's not just random moments here and there. There are whispers that they've been with each other for days at a time, suggesting something more serious might be going on. Again, none of this is confirmed, but if there's any truth to it, it sounds like Beyoncé might be choosing her own happiness for once, and people seem to be here for it. Some fans are even rooting for her and Julius, saying they'd rather see her with someone who's been loyal, protective, and consistent all these years instead of someone who allegedly caused her pain. And if you think that's all the drama, there's more. Another twist came up recently involving Jay-Z and his longtime mentor, Jaz-O. People are now digging into their past and wondering if there was more to their relationship than anyone realized. Some are even suggesting it may have been intimate. Here's some background. Jay-Z and Jaz-O met in the Marcy Projects when they were younger and quickly bonded over their shared love of rap. In his 2010 book, Decoded, Jay-Z wrote about how he looked up to Jaz-O and started practicing rhymes with him using a cheap tape recorder and a homemade mic setup. They spent hours freestyling, battling, and building their skills together. Jaz-O actually landed a record deal with EMI before Jay-Z did. He released an album called Word to the Jazz in 1989 and brought Jay-Z along for the ride, having him feature on early tracks like Hawaiian Sophie and The Originators. They were close. Like, really close. Jay even traveled with him to London during recording sessions for that album. That trip may have even saved Jay-Z's career. There was a federal raid happening back home, and being out of the country possibly helped him avoid serious trouble. Later, Jay used the entire experience as motivation, learning from the mistakes of others in the industry. Eventually, Jay-Z got his own big break, but at some point, he and Jaz-O had a falling out. There was tension, resentment, and eventually, public beef. Then when Jay had his famous feud with Nas, things got even more heated, because Nas sided with Jaz-O. Their friendship, once so close, had completely broken down. Now, with all the rumors swirling again, some people are looking back at that friendship and wondering if there was more behind the scenes than either of them ever said publicly.
As far as feeling, yeah, it was hard. It was difficult listening to that because it felt like it was him, obviously, but it felt like a stranger. And one more thing that I feel is important is that I understood his position to a point. Not saying I agree with it, but I understood his position because he's got this, everybody, all the time. Before the status that, you know, we see now, he had that all the time because the main thing was even into the late 90s, it was still Jazz and Jay-Z.
In April 2019, Jazz shared that he signed a distribution deal under Jay-Z's Roc Nation label, which made it look like the two had finally ended their long-running feud. Through this deal, Jazz's company, Kings County Media Group, received equity distribution under the Roc Nation brand. It felt like a peaceful resolution to their history. But here's where things get more complicated. There are claims that their fallout wasn't just business-related. It may have stemmed from a personal, possibly romantic issue between them. While this might be new information for some, people familiar with the 90s scene say there were whispers back then, and a few even confirmed there were rumors the two had been physically involved. Jay-Z, as usual, has done a solid job cleaning up the internet of most blog posts and stories linking him to those kinds of speculations. Still, the talk picked up again not long ago when a report claimed a journalist nearly lost their life after asking Jay-Z about the alleged relationship. There have also been stories floating around for years suggesting Jay-Z keeps a lot about himself hidden. So for some, these types of claims aren't shocking anymore. With everything we've heard about the Carters, like Tina allegedly pressuring Beyonce into marrying Jay-Z, Beyonce now possibly living with her bodyguard Julius, and her PR team reportedly putting out stories to prep for a divorce, nothing really feels out of the question anymore. But I want to hear your thoughts, so drop them in the comments.